welcome to the Doomloop Dispatch, Doomloopers. Thanks for joining us again. It is I, your host, Kevin Jones, and with me is...
Scott Miller, as always, except the last time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad you're back, though. It's not the same show without you.
Oh, thanks. Likewise.
Yeah, but sadly, we're coming in today with some breaking news, some intense political news that we got to talk about, and that is an FBI raid on Mayor Sheng Thao. This comes, of course, within days of the recall petition getting enough signatures and basically them approving a recall, which apparently is the first recall of a mayor, like successful campaign to start. They tried one with Libby Schaaf, our friends at the Anti-Police Terror Project tried to recall Libby Schaaf, but couldn't do it in time. But seems like when you got enough money and enough influence, you can get enough signatures, especially if you're not exactly honest about what the signature you're gathering signatures for.
Well, you also had to deal with the fact that, like, what Cat Brooks and them were doing was a grassroots movement. This is AstroTurf. Like, they didn't pay signatures. They didn't pay signature gatherers. So that's a major factor in the difference between those two.
Yeah, I've heard of sometimes as much as $6 a signature.
No, it's much higher than that.
You're kidding me.
No, for Pamela Price, the average signature for any other petition was $2. But for the Pamela Price, it got all the way up to $9 to $10 per sig.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, to be able to throw down that kind of money, because that's thousands of signatures you need.
And so, basically, like, and I always made it a point to talk to the signature gatherers because I could, they're just like, and what I found was, in both instances, it was always these guys who did not understand the politics behind what they were doing. Because they're only there to get paid. They're workers, right? Yeah. So the pitch always was, you don't necessarily have to agree with what's on the petition. If it makes the ballot, you can vote against it. But I myself, I'm broke and I need the money. Could you just do me a solid? That was the pitch. That was the pitch. And I actually talked to guys who actually, like, I would ask, like, well, why do you want to recall her? And guys would be like, I don't really think anything about it. I'm not really into politics. I just like,
and I'm into making money.
Yeah, that's basically what the argument was. So, because the pay was so good, a guy could walk away with like $300 in a day if he actually went out there and hustled.
Yeah, and that's makes more than a substitute teacher. That's for sure.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, of course. So after, days after the recall signatures are submitted and the recall becomes official, there's an FBI raid.
Yes.
And by all account, well, it's so interesting how much detail. I've never seen stories focus on details such as, like, they were wearing blue gloves while they pulled things out. Like, it's like, we know what an FBI raid is. Just talk about what this. We don't need to know, like, how many people they were and that kind of thing. Well, but just goes to show how there's not enough out there about what's happening, but they want to make a big splash that something's happening to Thao.
Yeah, and I think that is, like, the main things, like everything I've read thus far. The FBI hasn't given any real details about who they're investigating or why. Yeah. And the way they make it sound is as if the only house was raided, when in fact it was 4 different places that got raided. But the way that the local news is framing it is like the focus is on her. But it sounds to me that it's more on this guy Duong, who actually runs the waste management facilities in Oakland.
Yes.
And like, let's be honest, waste management is almost always corrupt. Always.
Yeah.
Let's not forget what John Gotti was doing. Like, let's not forget that Gotti was in waste management. Okay. so they're typically some corrupt guys. So I'd be more inclined to believe that association is probably more of a thing than her actually being implicated into any kind of real crime. But you wouldn't get that from local news at all.
Yeah. Well, and and what they're not talking about too is the fact that Duong has been being investigated since 2019.
Wow.
The Oakland Public Ethics Commission has launched a major investigation into that guy back then, and it didn't even come out until a year later.
Yeah.
And they're they're funneling money to people. Now, did they do it to Thao? Well, we don't know yet, but we do know that these things happen, you know, that they also too, that other mayors have been being accused recently of corruption as well. It just came out that the mayor before Thao, Libby Schaaf, had set up a committee that she wasn't supposed to be in charge of or have anything to do, but it was for a children's fund, a children's initiative. But it turned out, yes, she was running it, and or at least like it's pretty easy to see that her or her people were running it, because the committee they set up to do it, a committee of teachers, basically they didn't do anything. They were just told what to approve and not to approve, and they've admitted that in the investigation. Yeah, but we got it. But you know, this has been the Thao raid has been meat for the right wing. You know, here in Oakland, all the quote unquote moderates are almost having like a celebration lap. I mean, they're loving this, that she's getting brought down. I haven't seen so many happy trolls in a while.
But it also is interesting to me that Susan Dyer over at Voices of San Francisco, she's going around saying that Rebecca Kaplan's home had been raided, and that's just absolutely false. Kaplan has actually gone on to Twitter and tried to correct a bunch of people, and they're also trying to implicate Nikki Fortuna Bass and Carol Fife. They're trying to push all these people into this thing. And the thing is just like, I mean, no matter what, the spin is already done. The damage has been done, right? Because now Dow's going to be painted as corrupt, whether she is or not. And that right there, I find extremely suspicious. I find it extremely suspicious that it would happen at 5:30 in the morning on the week of the turning in of these signatures. Now, I'm not saying that the FBI is any way implicated in this at all. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is just like, what exactly was the thing that triggered it at this particular time, right?
And why would they inform all the reporters without giving them any information? I mean, they basically set up a TV spot. You know, they set up. It's definitely like they set up for those cameras to be there and those reporters to be there, but not give them any background.
Right. You know, it's just like, to me, I mean, it's just, and the thing is like money does funny things, you know, and I mean, like the thing is like, no, nobody's paying off the FBI or anything like that. That's not happening. But what you're doing is you're implicating the Rob Bonta, AG Bonta, who is actually doing some very serious investigation into Neighbors Together Oakland, which was Seneca Scott and Lynn Raphael's now dissolved nonprofit, for the ethics violations. So so it was like, if you can implicate Bonta as a corrupt actor or working in bad faith, that kind of like challenges that.
Yeah. Right? And that's coming out because what people are connecting to this raid is a trip from last year when Thao, some Port of Oakland officials, and Bonta, and probably some other people that I'm missing.
But the sheriff of Alameda County.
The sheriff, yes, and Alameda County sheriff all went to Vietnam for a business trip. Basically, there's a lot more investment in Vietnam, and they want to start trying to get some of the billions that are being invested in Vietnam to come back to the U.S. And it sounds like it was sponsored by DeWong, you know, a shady figure who runs Cal Waste, but is also being investigated for possible corruption, or at least like, you know, using what they, I forgot the name, but it's basically when you use people to donate your money, like you basically have like, hey, here, I'm going to give you this money and you donate to them and you can keep a chunk of it or whatever, but make sure you donate this to money, but you got to say you're donating it, even though it's my money.
Because like otherwise it would be a conflict of interest or a sign of corruption. But I mean, I think that's a pretty regular thing that politicians do. You know, I don't necessarily, I mean, like, especially when you're dealing with something like Citizens United, and where you like once that was passed, you know, like money, like the so-called caps on contributions, but it became so murky
Yes.
Like, so
and the PACs, the super PACs,
and the super PACs. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's not like that right there is actually inherently corrupt. I don't think,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I mean, it's just we don't really have enough information to know what the hell's going on just yet.
We don't.
And yet, I mean, and that's one of the things that I'm really upset about with the local news, and that's we talk about a lot. The doom loop itself, it doesn't really wait. No. It never waits.
Right?
Well,
because you got to get those hits, and that's something I was definitely aware of when at the local stations. I mean, you really had to be first, so no matter what was happening, Thao ripped a stinky fart. Oh, we better be on it, like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I mean, I think the only thing we can do is kind of like wait it out and see what exactly the charges are, and even to see even if Thao is actually implicated in a crime. I mean, like, okay, let's just say, I mean, okay, I have this my apartment actually is an East Bay Express apartment.
Okay.
Like one of the founders of the East Bay Express, and I did not know this when I moved in. One of the founders of the East Bay Express actually used to own this apartment. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of East Bay Express paraphernalia still in this house.
Okay.
So let's just say that something happened with the East Bay Express, some kind of corruption thing or something like that. It could be something that happened like 10 years before I was even there. Right. But you might have some documents that assist us in finding this corruption. We're going to come, we're going to raid your place. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the person who's being investigated.
Yeah, you just have the stuff. You
have the stuff. So I mean, I think that might be more of what it is, and I'm kind of hoping. I mean, and of course, can't go entirely just based on hope, but I'm kind of hoping that like when the charges do come, that none of them are actually going to involve our mayor.
Yeah,
and in which case, like these guys are gonna have to shut the fuck up again, which would be great.
That'd be so nice.
Yeah,
for once. But it also just goes to show how serious these battles are and how determined. I mean, again, I can't really draw conclusions, but for one, the celebrations going on right-wing social media or quote unquote moderate social media, do have me feeling suspect. But also too, it's they're determined and they'll do anything. They'll say anything. We saw it with the recall of Boudin, with basically, Brooke Jenkins lying about her case, completely lying, which was also never, ever, except for independent media, none of the legacy media covered how she was lying about what she was saying and what was being reported. None of that ever came out. Same thing with this, like they'll just twist words, incorporating Diane Yap to go after Allison Collins, and basically twisting the words of a Malcolm X quote to say that she was racist against Chinese people. You know, like they do that over and over again. So I mean, you could totally see this, especially when the recalls here in Oakland are way less popular. They really don't have the groups behind him. You watch Omar Yassin's, he's there at every meeting. He's there at all these press conferences, and you see over and over again the recall side, like being so sparse. I mean, it's always just older white people, or at least mostly.
Well, see, the thing I think, and I've talked about this before, but the way that a rat fuck election actually works is the recalls themselves. The way it works is like, first you have to get the signatures, right, which you pay for.
Yeah.
But then you also have to have a special election, because the special election is going to have low turnout, and people are not even going to be aware the special election is happening, except those who are invested in the movement.
Yes.
Right. So what happened was, and this the same thing's about to happen with the Dow recall. They have to wait till November.
Yep.
And if you have to wait until November, you're not on a special election, you're just on the ballot. And the very people who voted those people in the first time are going to vote those people in again the second time.
Yes.
Right. Because because that's a real grassroots campaign. And that's the reason why I find it very sus, very, very sus, that just now when they needed a PR boost, because they're not going to be able. The whole idea of like people don't like Sheng Thao, that's not working.
Yeah,
right? It wasn't working. So it seems it's very odd to me that all of a sudden, like now we have, oh, well, she's corrupt. The FBI raided her place.
Yeah.
And the timing on that, right? Because they and the same thing's going to happen with Price. I mean, like, we were going to talk about this. I'm just going to go ahead and transition into it.
Okay.
Like, right now, DA Price is investigating notes from former DAs during death penalty cases, where the DAs would make these little notes saying this person is a Jew, this person is black, this person might be F word, or this person might be D word, right? And so like they're definitely like, and so as she's doing these investigations, it's becoming more difficult for the recall people to say that she's not doing her job, but it's also implicating O'Malley.
Yes.
And O'Malley's oversight over a decade as these things were going on and as she was covering these things up.
Yes.
Right. So now they're going to probably try to do the same thing with the Price, because they have to,
Yeah. Yeah, especially this. Well, they're already kind of attacking her, saying like, well, why isn't she focused going on after crime? And, well, crime is down, and she has been. I haven't heard of one story where, oh, Price is being light, unless it was justified. And to be honest, the people voted for Price because she's a former civil rights attorney. I mean, years in the civil rights movement, and it's like, seriously, doing what the people want, which is less incarceration. But there's what are cops for? What is this whole system for? Protecting property, and it's a tool for people to, it's a tool for punishment. It's a tool to bring people down. Oh, you're gonna stand up to us? Well, suddenly you're getting all your parking tickets are showing up.
Right.
And that one thing we let it slide. Well, now we're letting people know you did this, and we're gonna, find a way to bust you. I mean, these are all tools for a way to keep people in power. Right. And so Price not being on that side, of course, makes her a target. Right. And I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it just goes to show how messed up the whole system has been for so long. Well, people did not like Nancy O'Malley, and we're starting to see more and more reasons why.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I mean, I've been talking about this quite a bit. It's the thing that I'm finding most disturbing about this whole push is that one of the central arguments is anti-blackness. Mm-hmm. Like there's a video that's circulating today, in particular on Twitter, where Sheng Thao is actually dancing with a bunch of teenagers. Nobody says anything except like, look at her. And I've been asking, what exactly is wrong with this? What's wrong with her dancing with a bunch of teenagers? Yeah. Well, the only thing that's wrong with it is that they're black.
Yep.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing that's wrong with it. Like, you just come out and articulate it, right? And the thing is that Pamela Price is the first black woman DA that the Oakland has ever had.
Yes.
Right. And so, like, these things, and what they're doing is they are capitalizing on anti-blackness. And the thing is, and like you were talking about with Badine, right, and Brooke Chickens, like these things wouldn't happen if the white power structure didn't allow them.
Yep.
It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen if they didn't allow it, So, I mean, to me, I mean, that's one of the central tenets. Like, I personally am I have my feelings about the black people participating in these recalls, the public figures that are participating in these recalls. I think they're sellouts, mm-hmm. and that doesn't, that's just my opinion of these people, But I think what we're seeing as of today, right? What we're seeing is that whatever those mechanisms are, they go much higher up than we actually probably anticipated. I think that's really what we're seeing.
Yes. And we have to point out, too, that the people that want these recalls, that are paying for these recalls, guess what? None of them are black people, but a lot of them are invested in real estate. They're all and it's all about property rights, and especially too, you got to remember, for the past decade we've been seeing a kind of black flight from Oakland out into Antioch and kind of outskirts because of expenses and everything else. And also honestly how they've hurt the schools. There's better schools on the outside, you know, but it's sad, you know, you'll go to you know, a big black church and you'll talk to people there and you'll see them all drive back to Antioch. You know, they'll still keep their connections to the community, but they're still going back home because they can't afford it. And so it's clear that there is this kind of, I mean, a very investment minded motivation behind these recalls. It's, you know, and it's also thinking about the new residents that they want in, and look at all the people that like have you been looking at the Oakland report by a guy named Tim Gardner?
Yes, I have. Well, you know, Omar actually pointed out that they haven't really been posting anything since NTO got dissolved. Every person who was writing for NTO, everyone was writing for the Oakland report were actually being paid through NTO. Oh. So when NTO got dissolved, that website or that Substack stopped producing.
Oh, interesting. Right. Yeah, I've read some recent ones, but it's also all from that Tim Gardner guy who supposedly is a resident for 15 years, has never participated in politics until now. Yeah. Oh, this past year. Oh, I wonder what happened. Oh, well, we have the first black DA and a black female DA and a somewhat left mayor, you know? Yeah. And young mayor. Oh, now he's, and what is his issue? Crime, which is going down. But what is he fighting? Oh, those crime statistics. Well, they're not true, especially if you compare them from last year. I'm sorry, but if we want to talk about this, and I do have to really reiterate this over and over again, crime went down big time during the lockdown. During the pandemic, you saw a humongous drop because no one was going out, you know? Right. And thankfully there's enough money kind of circulating that, like, you know, people weren't super desperate as they would be, but crime went down big time and then went up again. And the worst part about all these recalls is they all are like, look, we have this huge spike in crime because they're manipulating the data from the pandemic.
Well, you know, I think the thing that really kills me about that argument, right, is that the other one they say is that crime isn't really down, is that people have stopped reporting crimes and the cops have stopped reporting crimes. But the real issue for me is like when the statistics are saying crime was up, you believe them.
Yep.
And then that very same source says crime is down, you don't believe them.
Yeah.
Right. So the issue isn't. The issue is like what you thought was a reliable source just months ago is now an incredibly unreliable source, right? So what you did was like you used that source in order to push your agenda. But the minute that source no longer pushes your agenda, you want to discard it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, the hypocrisy of that is just so astounding. It's just astounding hypocrisy. I mean, it'd be one thing if you didn't believe the crime stats when they were high. But well, you know, they're over-reporting. That's not really happening. Okay, they're saying crime is down now. Well, hey, I don't believe those stats anyway.
Yeah.
But you're pushing the stats, and then you just stop pushing the stats when it starts refuting you.
Yep.
It's the most outrageous shit.
It's about narrative all the way.
Yeah, all the way. And I'm really concerned about the way that money is manipulating this whole situation. I don't think that the public understands. I don't think the public understands exactly how much money has gone into this. I don't think the public understands how many real estate interests are actually at play here. Chris Moore is a landlord. He's a realtor, right?
Kiefer Properties. That's a huge one.
Yeah, and Carl Chan. Carl Chan is he's a real estate guy.
Yep.
Like all of these guys are real estate guys. And that's like, you know, nobody seems to be able to make that connection. Why would and I want to talk about this real quick. The history of West Oakland home ownership is very much reflective of the history of Western Addition home ownership.
Interesting.
Meaning to say, during World War II, a lot of Black people were recruited, especially from Texas for some reason. A lot of Black people were recruited to work the shipyard in Hunters Point during World War II, but they were not allowed to live in San Francisco proper, right? The only places they could afford to live were either Hunters Point or the Western Addition Fillmore area. And so they bought houses there. That's the reason why the Fillmore district ended up being the Jazz Central of California. Why it was called
Harlem of the West Coast.
Right. But then during the 1970s, that whole area was raised through this thing called the redevelopment agency.
Yep.
A lot of those people were given these so-called vouchers. They were going to be able to move back in their homes once the development was done. And instead, they filled those places up with public housing. So these vouchers were just null and void. They're just null and void. So basically, a lot of people, whether it was in the 1940s, they moved to West Oakland, right, and bought a house, or in the 1970s, they moved to West Oakland and bought a house.
Yep.
So what they're really trying to do when you're talking about Black flight, what you're talking about is there are still Black home ownerships in particularly West Oakland. And West Oakland is mighty close to that bridge. And a lot of people are interested in building a campus there. Right. So, I mean, a lot of these things that we're seeing, especially while real estate is really interested in doing things that pretty much particularly hurt Black Oaklanders. Right. Like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to chase Black Oakland away. They're trying to force them to sell their homes. They're trying to force them to abandon West Oakland.
Yes.
So they can do these things. Yeah. Right. And people like Barbara Kaplan and people like Sheng Thao and people like Carol Fife, they understand what this is really about. Yeah. Right. And the whole thing is about trying to encourage these people not to give in to the pressure. Yes. Right. But when you have the media wing of their movement constantly telling them to get out because the place is so crime infested, you should get out. You should get out. You should get out. And I think that's one of the things that's one of the main motivators behind all of this.
Yeah. Or we need more cops. We need more cops. We need more cops to harass them. And that's a thing too. I've been on those Oakland police ride-alongs, man. And they just drive around West Oakland.
Yeah. I mean,
early numbers. And they'll tell you. And it's like, well, if we don't do this, then the shootings start happening. And I'm like, really? Okay. But but a lot of that is such a good point about West Oakland. Because especially if you think about that, it has its own BART station. Yep. Everything's paved. So a lot of real estate, developers want that kind of stuff. They want that around Berkeley too. Yeah. They want to be a building right next to the transit stations. Yeah. So because that'll be desirable property, that's what brings it up, especially for people from Europe. And stuff like that, people that are or Asia, where it's like they're really already dependent on transit. They don't want to change their habits.
And it can't be forgotten. It can't be forgotten at all that Elon Musk tried to be successful in San Francisco with his campus, and it failed. He tried Texas, and it failed. Right. And so, and the land around here. I mean, I was just talking to somebody about the network state. Yeah. But the thing is, okay, so right now these guys are interested in Alamo Square Park, right? They're interested in that.
Yep.
A Black homeowner was threatened at first with racist materials, and then his home was burnt down in the very place that these guys are saying they want to be.
The dog walker, right?
Yes. Yeah. In the very place that these guys said they want to be. Like so a Black homeowner who had that home since the 1960s got burnt out of his home in the very place where the network state guys say they want to be, right? I mean, so that's what I mean when I say the anti-Blackness seems to be it's more of a. I'm trying to think of the word. It's an indicator that they are involved.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. Oh, and I just want to say, the burning out of tenants in rental properties is a serious issue that is not being reported on as much as it should be in the Bay Area. Yeah. I have known at least 2 instances of this happening where the landlords literally paid for arson. Mm-hmm. One rental property was burned twice. They hit it twice. Another friend who was like another person I know who was a couple. I mean, it turned out, and it was like, I mean, the guy was basically a gangster, trying to burn down his home so he could sell it, or at least get the tenants out and replace them.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so easy to dismiss this kind of talk as being conspiratorial. But when we have to start from the fact that the real estate industry is the biggest industry in the world. It is a $217 trillion dollar industry.
Yeah.
So many people are rich just because of real estate. Look at Trump. I mean, Trump inherited New York real estate, and that's how he made his big name. I mean, it's like literally just buying property, because it's like healthcare. You're always going to need shelter. You can't survive without shelter. It's like, so it's like so much of this kind of like utility capture, PG&E, you're always going to need energy. So it's like the same thing with real estate. It's truly, a great way to make money if you're a craven asshole.
And I think that's the thing, the reason why we have to continue to try to figure out ways to do this alternative media, because we have to figure out a way to fight back.
Yeah.
I mean, like it isn't so much like I myself. I mean, as far as Oakland mayors go, I mean, like, mayor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
District attorney. I mean, like, you mean the cops?
Yeah.
Of course, like, I mean, like, so of course I'm like, I've risen from a certain kind of indifference that I have, because I keep seeing these tactics. It's the tactics that make me want to get further involved. It's not so much what you guys are doing. It's not so much what you guys are trying to do. It's how you're trying to do it.
Yes.
Right. Because we're getting ready to go into a situation where in 2024, Donald Trump intends to use the Supreme Court in order to overturn the election. He intends to use the Republican Senate to refuse to certify the election. Yes. Then he's going to try to pull a Bush v. Gore thing, right? And if it's even halfway close, and there's hanging chads, right? What we're dealing with, like, we are dealing with a bullshit infrastructure, right? That really is trying to impose itself on us, and it's not only on the local level, but it's also on the national level.
Yes.
Right? So if we allow these things to happen in Oakland, we're going to end up allowing that fascism to actually enter into our we will end up with a fascist dictator.
And seriously, we could see it already happening with San Francisco. I mean, that is why you're seeing the network state people talk the way they do about San Francisco, about making a separate city within the city just for the elites, the grays, and it's because not just because they're fucking nuts.
Right.
But they're seeing success with these evil tactics.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole reason I got involved, was just seeing what happened in San Francisco and being the reporter I am. And what makes me the angriest is how complicit the Fourth Estate is in this.
Yeah.
This is the stuff. This is exactly why the news media exists, is to stop this stuff. Yeah. But instead, we're getting like what we're seeing today with Tal's raid. Basically, make a big deal, give all the red meat the other side needs with their media, and not really get into any of the details, Well,
I mean, and it's just been such a slow and insidious way that it's crept into the public mind. And I mean, it would be one thing if it was just Fox. It'd be one thing if it was just KTVU. But now it's KGO, it's KPIX, it's all of them. It's all of them. And
the newspapers too.
Yep. I mean, I can't even deal with the Chronicle anymore, man. I mean, I can't even deal with them,
I just use it for the archives.
Yeah.
They were good.
I mean, like, but I mean, I mean, there are other, like, not everything in the Chronicle is being manipulated like that. I on occasion, I mean, I think Justin Phillips does a great job. I think there's a handful of good writers and good reporters still at the Chronicle.
Alejo is also great.
Yep. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that the Chronicle should be dismissed entirely, but you also have to understand that there is a creeping corruption. The creeping corruption is actually happening everywhere.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Well, there's definitely reporters everyone should be aware of that are reporting on this. I read a bunch of stuff from Eli Rosenberg last night, and I say he's suspect. I wouldn't trust his reporting, especially the last one. So, and I'm hoping we could do a future episode about the Oakland budget, because I think that's going to be a big battle, and that really does show kind of the two sides of what's going on, especially reading a Tim Gardner piece where he's like, they want to use that money from the sale of AlCo Arena for the city budget when they could be setting up an entrepreneur fund for people in Oakland. It's like, so you just want to give it away to business? Is that what you want to do? F you. But anyways, but that's, people like Eli Rosenberg, who literally in his story, he might tap into some city officials to kind of give some balance. But basically, first and foremost is everyone on the right, the critics, the quote unquote critics who, surprisingly have these big platforms and are completely trusted, even though they have no reporting experience and are basically, like, I would say no better than what's her name from Murder, She Wrote. They're all like amateur sleuths, basically.
Right.
Well, but we're supposed to take them seriously? No, they have opinions. They have biases.
Yes.
They have objectives. They're not objective, but they have objectives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I think the budget discussion would be a good one to have. I personally, like I say, I mean, today was kind of a shock. It was a shock to my system. And the thing is, like, I don't really know how we're going to be able to continue to get the word out to people, just because it is such a deeply infected directive these guys have. It's just like it's I mean, like, how many fake accounts on Twitter do these people have?
Yeah. What's the one you fight with a lot? I am Keisha. Is that...
okay. You want me to tell the Keisha story?
Yeah.
All right. So basically, I didn't really know Keisha at all. I don't know Kalima Preforce. I don't know him, but we followed each other on Twitter and Facebook since before he actually ran for anything.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys. Like I say, I come from a journalist art background. So, so when I first started doing things at the Guardian, people started kind of like following me. I started following people back. So I don't really know him, but I've known him for a while. So Kalima had a cane. He's got an issue with his legs. Okay. And he occasionally has to walk with the cane. I think it's probably something like bursitis. I have bursitis. And so every once in a while, my knee flares up. Nothing I can do about it. I mean, I'm getting older, Mm-hmm. So Keisha actually came out at him and said some really ableist bullshit to him. Ugh. And I said, okay, well, who are you and why are you talking to him like that? That's really disrespectful. And she started responding in just gifs. And I was like, why won't you answer me? Like, you're just sending me gifts. And then I noticed that she started transposing her letters. Like, the more angry she became, the more her letters transposed. Okay. And then she started calling Kalima Mila. She got Mila. And I was like, what's Mila? What is that? Mila. She's like, that's what I call him. I call him Mila. And I'm like, why are you calling him Mila? What's Mila? Are you trying to say mira? Like, as in look in Spanish? I had no idea what she was talking about.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after we had the interaction that I realized she was trying to say Lima. His name is Kalima.
Oh, yeah.
Read it as Camila. And she was teasing him and I was like, wait a minute. So do you have undiagnosed dyslexia? But I'm not here to. And the thing was, I said, this is what I told her. I said, like, if you're using ableist language to somebody about their physical disability, and you actually have a learning disability, like, do you not understand how fucked up that is?
Yeah, how hypocritical.
Like do you have a disability? If you have a hidden disability, then you shouldn't be making fun of somebody else who has a disability. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But then I started noticing that sometimes on her Twitter page, she could be so prolific and so erudite. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. This looks like somebody else is writing for her.
Uh-huh.
All right. So what I started doing was I started screenshotting when she would say things like she tried to write narcissistic and she wrote narrowcastic. and the thing that drove me crazy about that was, baby, there's screenshots, there's spell check. So, I mean, like, it actually, when the spell check said there's no such thing as narrowcastic, You should have stopped and gone and looked up how to spell narcissistic. But she didn't. She just went on ahead.
Yeah.
But then there's another time and she's just being so eloquent. So she had this one term, and I'll stop talking because we're about to end it up. But okay, so she had this thing that she used to call, what is it? She called it the woke left KKK.
God damn.
Okay, the woke left KKK. And I never heard that before. I was like, what the hell is the woke left KKK mob? Where would you even get that from? Woke left KKK mob. So she used it a couple of times, and of course I don't really interact with her, right?
Yeah.
She's getting boosted by Musk, right? So then I noticed there's only one other person who said it, and that was Chris Moore. Chris Moore used the term woke left KKK mob, exactly that phrasing. And I was like, you are her ghostwriter.
Yep, or burner, or that's his burner account.
No, Keisha's a real person.
Oh, she is? Okay.
She's a real person. She's real, but she lets Chris Moore write something for her. She cuts and pastes it and puts it on her Twitter.
Yeah.
But because and the voices are always so different. Like, for example, when she's writing for herself, she's kind of immature. She kind of has a tendency of writing like really rude, little nasty little things, and then putting like emojis in between every sentence. And instead of punctuation, she puts emojis, like, and does like 5 exclamation points, things like that. Yeah. But when Chris is doing it, there's no emojis.
Yeah,
and the punctuation is perfect. So I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been wanting people to be aware of this, because it's not just about, it's the way that these white people are using Black people that is very disturbing to me. I do believe that Seneca Scott has a hidden disability. I do believe that Keisha has a hidden disability. I do believe this, and I believe that that's one of the reasons why they're so easy to take advantage of. And that's not to say that they're victims in any way, shape, or form. I think they're both getting paid, right? But I think that you wouldn't even be inclined to do what you're doing unless there was something unsound about you.
Yes.
And so I mean, like, so that's not a question of like actually trying to extend sympathy, but it does explain a few things. Like, Seneca Scott has been noted as saying he had a religious epiphany where he saw the apocalypse, and he went several days in a vision. Wow. And he said he saw the coming apocalypse, and that was the thing that turned him into a doom looper and a prepper, was because and this is something he's actually said.
That sounds like schizophrenia or something.
It's something, right? I mean, so I think that, like, I worry about them, but also worry for them.
Yeah,
I mean, like, that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah, and I mean, but again, that's the everyone knows the secret that a lot of these trolls online, especially Twitter, it's all coordinated teams.
Yes,
they're all talking, they're all giving statements. I mean, you can see it. Like, you'll see it if there's a line they want to push. Everyone just starts tweeting the same thing, almost practically the same language, and you just know it. But I mean, there's been some articles, but it's almost like a wall that is very hard to penetrate, to get somebody to flip over the other side and be like, yes, this is what they're doing. Right. I mean, it makes sense for people to have like campaigns, hey, I'm running this account. That makes total sense. But I think I think that's even a way to kind of escape how much you're actually paying and donating, is when you pay for these trolls, like as a business, they could literally, like, that could be all, you could double your donations by investing in these pundits, these trolls, and you don't have to claim them. And yes, you're going to see more and more of it with the recalls, and that's why they're jumping on this stuff, the Tao and raid, like red meat.
I mean, but what's so crazy to me is, like, even if they did achieve their goals, even if they did manage to get rid of both Tao and Price, they would still be under the scrutiny of the system itself. It's not like you're going to get a chance to just put in your person. Right, we're going to have to go through a total new set of elections.
Yes,
that's what we'll have to do. And if we have to go through a whole new set of elections, that doesn't necessarily mean your guy's going to win.
Yes, no,
right?
That's what Omar talked about with the DA. Okay, so if Price is recalled, they will have to vote for first they'll have to appoint somebody. Then that person will have to win a special election.
Yeah.
And then you won't have a regular DA, another like just voted by the people DA until 2028.
And also, I think that really isn't the real goal of it, though. The goal is to be able to threaten public officials with recalls.
Yes.
I think ultimately that's what they want to do. They want to show their effectiveness.
Yeah.
They want to be able to say, if you do not cooperate with us on this, we will recall you.
Yes.
They're actually doing it to make it into a cudgel.
Yes.
Like something they can actually threaten public officials who refuse to get in line. We'll move our army on you.
Yes. Not only will we get the people we want in there, we will take you out right away.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
And that's why they were so sure. Like they did try to hide it with Price and Thao. I mean, literally. I mean, it was like before she even took office, the Price recall had started ramping up.
Well,
they'd already started.
It was so effective with Boudin. I mean, like that's the reason we did it. It was so effective. But then again, like I say, we have the demographic makeup of San Francisco is so different than the demographic makeup of Oakland.
Yes.
That and like I said, that anti-blackness worked better.
Yep.
It worked better in San Francisco because the black population in San Francisco is only 3-4%.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And it's the other thing that works. So it's like a standard of politics, especially for the right, the other. Let's exploit the other.
Yeah.
Which are usually just the weakest minority that take on.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why it's turned into trans people, for a lot of the country too.
Oh my God. I mean, that right there is just like, leave people alone, man. What's wrong with you? Like, leave people alone.
Greed.
I mean, and that's what I mean. Is the whole idea, the thing that really upsets me about this is that it's bullying and harassment. These are their primary tactics. Yep. Bullying and harassment.
Yes.
And what they're trying to do is they're trying to encourage us to become bullies and harassers as well. They're expecting us to counter their ugliness with more ugliness. I'm not saying if they go low, we go high. I'm saying if you go low, I'll punch you in the face. How about that?
Yeah, we need a little more of that.
Yeah, we can't allow bullying to become a part of our platform. We can't allow it.
But they don't care. They know it's effective in a way.
Yeah, Trump's a bully. These people are bullies. They're all bullies. MAGAs are bullies. They're all bullies.
Yep.
And the only way you can confront a bully is, one, you can't just walk around ignoring the fact that they're bullies, because bullies need to be confronted.
Yes.
That's the only thing that stops a bully. Win or lose, a confrontation must happen, and that person will not bully you again.
Yes, and we've seen that happen with both the Proud Boys and the Patriot Front. You know, in both those cases, when those rallies happened, when you had counter rallies that were like, we're not taking this, and if you try to punch me, I will punch you back.
Yes.
You saw those guys crumble.
Well, that's why they tried it in Berkeley. They really tried to take over Berkeley a handful of years ago. They really tried. And Berkeley's like, no, we're not having it. And they never came back.
Yep.
They never came back.
It's because no matter how they tried to spin it, it still looked bad for them.
Yeah. And I think the same thing's also true with these bullies. I mean, I think that the political bullies that we're dealing with and the nasty language that they use, I mean, I think that there will be consequences. Yeah. And I think it's really important. Like, I say this a lot because Twitter is their so-called parallel media. Twitter's not real life.
Yep.
So if you come out into these streets thinking that the kind of rhetoric that you use on Twitter can be used in real life, there will be real world consequences.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and that's not an invitation for violence or anything like that. I'm just saying that what you're doing. Yeah. If what you say and do on Twitter, if you think you can walk out of your house and do that, there will be real world consequences. Like anonymity and lack of moderation. You have neither of those.
Yeah.
In real life.
Well, it's like, you could post as many swastikas as you want to on Twitter or X now, but walk outside wearing that one. Yeah, go out and wear one. See what happens.
See what happens. Go around calling people the N-word. Go ahead and give that a try.
Yeah, see what happens.
If you think what you're doing is you transform the world where you could do that, then you should go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about what Gary Tan and these network state guys are actually calling themselves doing. Like, that might sound good on paper. It might look good on your little G chats or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
But like, man, there will be real world consequences if you try that.
Yeah.
It's like, there will be. I mean, and it's not going to be the police. It's going to be a bunch of fed up working class people who are like, what the hell is this? And when did this start? And why are you trying to take my house? Why are you trying to close my park away from me?
Well, and also, I mean, they should know this already when they the 4 moms who squatted in that one West Oakland house, and the support they received, and how they won because the community came out and support them, you know. And it's like, instead of addressing that, instead of trying to ingratiate yourself to the community, no, we'll just go the Republican route, which is, and honestly, this is the definition of Republican. There's democracy and there's the republic, and the republic is about representatives, you know, representing certain interests. That is what they want. They want politicians that just represent their interests, and their interests over everyone else's.
Right. I mean, and like I say, I mean, this is what I keep having to remind myself of. Well, one, it's not like we haven't been here before.
Yep.
Right. Like, these guys are trying to bring back the company store and the company town. Right.
Yes.
And so, like, the way that we remedy that is we start focusing more on unions and collective bargaining again. We try to bring that back, because that was what beat them last time.
Yep.
Right. Like, we start really trying to force our legislature to actually start do things like antitrust laws, shut down these guys on that level. And hell, civil rights movement. I mean, if you guys thought that black people were going to stop fighting you, like, after, or marginalized people in general, but generally speaking, if you're thinking that the anti-blackness is going to be something you can bring back, that level of anti-blackness, right? History's already proven that you're going to lose, right? Like, Confederacy, they lost. Civil rights movement, they lost. You guys lost, right? Nazis lost. Mussolini lost. Wait, the Republicans, as we speak, they've lost everything since 2016. They're losing, right? So all of these things are kind of like reactionary things to the losses that they're taking. It's not like they've won anything, right? They continue to lose, and then they just double down on that loss. And so, so all of these movements, historically speaking, have never actually been successful. Every once in a while, you guys might get a little bit of ground, but then you automatically have to cede everything.
Yeah,
you have to give up entire countries. You have to give up entire states. You have to give them up, right? So, I think I read this great quote from Andrew Vox, and he said, "Bullies don't intend to fight. Bullies intend to beat."
Yep.
Right? Fighters don't know if they're going to win or lose, but bullies don't want to fight.
Yes.
They want to beat. Right? So that's the reason why when you stand up to a bully, the bullies always back down, because they don't really want to fight. If they can't win, they don't want to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But you guys are losing. So
I know. I really do think all these kind of wins from the techie right are very temporary. I don't think they'll hold up. I mean, I think it's more entrenched now because of Citizens United and that kind of way of like, well, we could just swamp everything with money. And I mean, I'm really interested to see how the Bowman Latimer primary in New York, how that turns out, because that is an intense amount of money, you know. But I don't think AIPAC has a good enough look, you know. I think they look so bad. So, but we're going to see more of that, and we're going to see more of this in Oakland. Totally. All right, Shell, on that note, you want to call it?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, let's talk about what we're going to do next week, because a bunch of people, what we have. Okay, I'll just say it to everybody.
Let's do it.
We got a lot of things going on, you guys. You know, we got the network states happening. We've got the budget coming up. There's going to be new developments on this whole thing we just had to experience today. I personally don't know where we're going to go next. I mean, I'm curious myself, because like we had planned to do something else today.
Yes, yeah, totally.
We had planned to do something else, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, breaking news, and we're news people. So we had to cover the breaking news.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I mean, and this stuff will still keep happening too, but that's why you got to keep tuning in, right?
That's right, man. That's right. Because we're gonna keep fighting the doom loop, you guys. We're just gonna do it every week. We're gonna fight them. We're gonna fight
through this narrative, man.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
That's
everyone, keep fighting the good fight. Thank you again for joining in, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.
All right.